Are you ready to go?
Yes, sir. How you doing? How's your day?
Good, man. It was all right. Worked, got home, was tired, chilled. Now I'm here. So I'm excited about this. I'd have to say that I don't know too much about the sign Capricorn. I know there's a connection with comedy, probably a connection with tragedy as well. And I know there's
Mhm.
something you've mentioned in the past about status. Capricorns are very cognizant of their status. So tell us about Capricorn, man, because I'm the layman astrology learner.
Right. So Capricorn is the goat. That's the animal of Capricorn, is the goat. Now, the symbol or the constellation, the picture is the sea goat. So it's actually a creature similar to a goat, but with a fish bottom half, the bottom half
Okay.
of an aquatic animal. And this is kind of, you can think of unicorn and Capricorn, right? There's a connection there. The name Capricorn, Capricorn is the climber of the zodiac, right?
Okay.
So this climber will often be reaching a lot of mountain caps. So Capricorn rules mountain climbing, mountaineering, tall heights, climbing the social ladder, as you touched on, status. And Capricorn rules, skipping ahead here to the part of the body, but it has to be mentioned in the name with the etymology. Capricorn rules the kneecaps. So we saw Sagittarius rules the hips and thighs, and then Capricorn rules the knee joint and the kneecaps. So that's why you have your kneecaps, caps of a mountain, Capricorn, things like that. So,
Is there a connection with capitalism?
yes, there is. Yeah. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, who's the bad guy, the evil one. So you'll find Capricorn is associated with the devil, with the capital D, meaning Satan or Saturn. So this Satan or Saturn figure is the god of constriction, sacrifice, captivity. So if you capture something, captivity, Capricorn rules that domain because of Saturn. So this is also where you get the satyr, who is the goat man, the satyr. And if you are sadistic, this goes back to Saturn and Capricorn as well. So Capricorn rules torture in some ways, and you can kind of stretch that and see why it also rules career,
Huh.
right? And Capricorn is the builder and the climber. So they're also a bit of a carpenter. This is why
Wow.
Jesus, who was a Capricorn, born December 25th, right,
Yeah.
was a what? A carpenter.
Right.
So carpenter comes from the same root as Capricorn, right? The R just goes in front of and behind the P there. So Capricorn. There's also a
Wow.
connection to Capricorn is kind of the second harvest period. It's the depths of winter. So there's, or not the depths, but at least the shortest, day is going to be on that cusp of Sagittarius and Capricorn. So in many ways, Capricorn is associated with the harvest, okay? Because of Saturn, who rules cycles, Saturn was very often associated with the harvest too. Why? Because ancient peoples would often be sacrificing in hopes of better harvest. Now, that's a discussion for another day. But the Capricornian influence on agriculture can be seen in the fact that corn is perhaps one of the largest, grains that's out there that agricultural land is being dedicated to. So Capricorn, you have your corn. Capricorns also have a reputation for kind of being maybe not the warmest of personalities, right? Unless they're fitting into this Joker archetype that we're going to get to. Capricorns tend to be very dead serious, because they ruled death when the sun stopped moving and dies on the cross in astro-theological, mythology. But then it also rules, it's right opposite Cancer. So this is the axis, which I call the Sirius axis, or why so serious? Because Cancer rules answers and to be serious
Right.
because of the constellation Sirius. And then Capricorn is right on the other axis. So I know that's something we've been covering too, is what sign is directly opposite, because you can learn from the axis that a sign is on. So Capricorn is right across from Cancer. That's why we get our Tropic of Capricorn and Tropic of Cancer on
Wow.
either side of the equator. Oh yeah, by the way, guys, cartography, astrology too. But to add one to the list of arts or sciences that stem from astrology, cartography too. Capricorn, with this kind of, they can have a little bit of a Debbie Downer reputation, Capricorns. They can also kind of be pricks, prick horns, right? So they can also be scornful. That corn, that's another Scorpio word. So scornfuls. Those are the two mean ones of the zodiac, or the punishers, rule retribution in their own way. Capricorn is also the sign of time and karma because of its
Wow.
rulership through Saturn. So Saturn is Chronos, which is chronology, right? And that's also probably where you get your corn, Chronos. This is also where you get Saturn rules things that are dead in the end of their cycle, right? Or decaying. So this is where you get your coroner, your corpse,
Huh.
okay, your corporation,
Right.
Capricorn. This is all your business, okay? So
That's really interesting because
mhm,
some people would describe a corporation as a dead entity, right? It's sort of this ship,
mhm,
you know what I mean? That's really interesting, man. It's another word I thought of that sort of correlated is with when a business perhaps capsizes, it goes underwater. It's
mhm,
just not fulfilling its duties as a business.
mhm,
So, wow, that's incredible. So the humor thing is that's what gets me the most. I think you explained that quite well in its relation to Sirius. And it's just mind-blowing when something like the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer, it's right in front of us the entire time. You know what I mean?
mhm.
And
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
Capricorn, you said I didn't put the period on it. You did for me. Thank you. That's Sirius is on one end of that axis, which
Yep.
means that comedy is on the other end of that axis. So they're both capable of extreme seriousness because of the constellation Sirius. But on the other end, Capricorn, you have comedy. So Exhibit A being Jim Carrey, who's perhaps the most Capricorn of all Capricorns. He's the funniest man alive, but somehow also the most depressed. Okay?
Yeah.
That's every Capricorn in a nutshell. No matter what
Yeah.
arena of life they're in. And I'm not saying that to dog them or put them down, but that's their, let me say it about this. Capricorn rules capability, but it
Okay.
also, they don't have the expansive vision, meaning they're often grueling through their work as they climb the mountain ladder, always looking down. So a lot of times they aren't satisfied or happy because that's kind of the coal to their locomotive, is to have a disgruntled or
Well,
you know
when you mentioned Jim Carrey, there are some interviews where he's dead serious. He's
mhm,
deadly serious, and it's kinda like, "Wait, is he serious?" He's so serious right now that I can't tell if he's that serious.
mhm.
But he is, and so he's probably a perfect example of what you're
Well,
talking about.
here's another one. When they're being, yes, they're either being the funniest person, the joker, the jester, or they're being dead serious. This is their spectrum. But then when they're not being either of those, they have a hard time. Capricorns have a very hard time coming across earnestly
Okay.
and down to earth, even though they're an earthy sign. Remember, they're up at the mountain cap. or they're up on the
Oh,
ladder and they'll climb over you if they need to. They'll kick you out of their way,
yeah.
like the mountain goat. They're the mountain goat, so they clearly will shear a rock face, 90-degree rock face. So Capricorns are like that. But when they're they have a hard time with small talk and warmth, just warmth and charisma. So they tend to be corny, is what I'm getting at, is they can have a hard time being the little guy in the room and speaking to people on their level. But they have this boss mentality. They're the goat. They're the greatest of all time, Capricorn. So they're always climbing. Greatest of all time, the goat. And Capricorns, you'll find, always will rise to the top of their workplace, or will rise high, earn a high position, at the very least quicker than the people that were already there. So if they're not the boss, they will rise the ranks, because Virgo can be like that too. Virgo will dedicate themselves to a job completely in terms of service. Capricorn, it's more like they implant themselves and they rise to the top, and before you even know it, they manage the place. I've had this happen with two of my close Capricorn friends who are put in a position with multiple places they've worked where they start and then within months they're literally managing it. So Capricorns can be like that. They're the boss. They're the goat. We mentioned Jim Carrey. Denzel Washington is one of those dead serious, and he's very goat-like.
So what happens though when a Capricorn doesn't make it? They're in a position where they're not rising to the top. Maybe it's the wrong job, the wrong field. Maybe they've made some wrong choices. What's the downside of Capricorn when they're not climbing that mountain?
They can box themselves in.
Okay.
Okay. Bach means goat.
Mhm.
Bach is also where we get book, because Saturn exalts in Libra, right? But that's where we get the library we touched on earlier. But Bach means goat. So Bach meaning goat. To box something in is very Capricornian. To be boxed in, to not, kind of like Virgo, they have a hard time thinking outside of the box because earth signs tend to be a little more stagnant. That's a good, oh, I should have said that on Virgo. It applies to Capricorn too. Stagnant, like a stag. And Virgo is the deer, remember.
Okay.
So stagnation is a Virgonian quality. Like
Uh-huh.
the gopher tortoise. They're, sometimes they can be like a mile an hour. Capricorn is a slow mover too, but they're climbing, whereas Virgo tends to burrow, with their progression in life. Capricorn is this climber. That's the stereotype. But you asked about ones who don't make it, they stagnate. They create a box for themselves. This can kind of be like,
Kind of like a goat in a stable versus a goat in a pasture or something.
yeah. Also, Capricorn does rule constriction of growth.
Wow.
So dwarfism is ruled by Capricorn and Saturn because of the growth isn't inhibited. So
That's quite interesting. So facial features, this is always one of my favorite parts of it. Facial features, body types of Capricorns.
Capricorns tend to be bony. Okay, they tend to have a bony structure. The bones come through the face and the cheeks, especially. Of course, their kneecaps will stick out. That's something that people say about Capricorns, but it's kind of like saying, oh, all cancers have big tits. There's a lot of truth to it, but it's not a rule of thumb. But Capricorns tend to be bony for sure. Capricorn rules the skeletal system, and Saturn rules the densest materials in the body. So bones, right? Also bones, graveyards, things like that. Capricorn rules. Now, if it's going more in the occult direction, that's more Scorpio. Scorpio kind of rules transcendental death.
Okay.
Capricorn's more the mundane death. And in some ways it's the rebirth because the sun starts increasing in size every day. from that time onward.
So it's like Scorpio controls the skull and the skeleton, while Capricorn controls the actual bones, right? Because when you break a bone, you get a cast. There's sort of a CA Capricorn connection there.
Hmm. Hmm. For sure. I mean, it's tough because that has the scorpionic prefix, the
Yeah.
skeleton, the skull, and for sure it is. But also, you can't get around the fact that Capricorn rules the skeletal system. So that's what it has down in rulership book and different references that I go to.
Yeah.
So because there's
So
12. There's sorry to cut you off. There's
go ahead.
12 systems in the body.
Yeah.
And there's 12 signs of the zodiac, and each correspond perfectly.
Wow. So facial features of a Capricorn, what would they typically look like? What would they dress like? What are some standout qualities they may or may not have?
So, Capricorn qualities. Number one, they tend to be bony, like I said, boniness in the face, cheekbones, you can see. They tend to have not as wide eyes perhaps a little more squinted. That's an earth sign thing, by the way. Capricorn, squinty eyes.
I have it. I'm a Virgo
Tor-
earth sign.
Taurus, very, very squinty eyes. Virgo can have very squinty eyes too. So that's an earth sign thing, is squinty eyes. Not all the time, but it's more, I'd say, cheeky eyes, if you know what that means. Then they tend to be, I know, lots of contradictions in astrology. You have to get comfortable with contradictions, right? So I'd say they're either tall and slender, okay, or short and stocky, but they are not a sign that tends to put on a lot of weight. They tend to be bony, like I said.
Yeah.
Now they are a sign where the ascendant and the moon can definitely take sway over the sun sign, because it's a sign where the sun is very weak. Okay, but yeah.
That's interesting about sort of the wintry signs. The sun is weak, so they could be sort of not necessarily overtaken, but almost
Hmm.
maybe overtaken by their ascending sign, right?
Yes.
That's incredible. I never even thought about that. So with summer signs, the sun sign is like really, really a
Yeah.
huge part of it.
Leos are always Leos. Always.
Yeah.
Cancers are always cancers. So yeah. Aries are always Aries.
Versus Capricorn, they could sort of hide in the darkness. You don't necessarily know.
And as we get through the zodiac, the first signs of the zodiac, this is not a dig, but they have less dimension and depth to them. Meaning what you see is what you get. This is very much true for Aries, Taurus, Gemini. Things start getting a little complex, but those are the signs I find I can guess very easily too in person. Aries, Taurus, Gemini. Those ones are very easy for me because it's very on the face. They're present. They're in the body. When you get to the end of the zodiac, when you start getting to like Scorpio, which is a very deep sign and has a lot of ruling planets and exaltations behind it, a lot of moving pieces in Scorpio and depth. Then you get to Pisces, which is perhaps deeper. Hang on. When we get to the sign of Pisces, all the way at the end, which is as deep as the deepest ocean, right? Those depths are also, the Pisces is the hardest sign to guess in my experience. It's one that I've guessed perhaps, I don't know, I could probably only count on my two hands, how many times I've guessed a Pisces in person. Whereas Aries, I don't want to brag, but I can guess them very easily. Taurus, when you get to the end of the zodiac, from Scorpio onward, it gets pretty difficult to guess signs because there's a lot more moving pieces, like I said. And Capricorn is one where, like I said, yeah, the sun is at a weak point. Some will argue it's the strongest, but you could disregard that. But some will say it's the strongest because that's where the sun is restarting. But I'm not of that. I think it's a date that should be celebrated, of course, but I think we do ourselves an injustice by having our greatest kind of annual celebration near the winter solstice, right?
Do you think it should be more spring and summer solstice celebrations? Equinoxes?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, it is weird, but it's almost kind of necessary because at least up north here, it's like, it gets cold. It's
What
dark.
else? What else do you have to live for?
Well, it's like we could really use a holiday during that time period, especially like a big one. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it sort of makes sense up here, but I personally wouldn't mind. Here's the thing: I think there should be 4 big holidays a year. I find it sort of irritating where it's this day, it's that day, all these sort of made up holidays. Like the holidays got to be legit and they got to be big. I think there should be like 4 major holidays a year. That's what I would lean towards, and a few long weekends. So
Hmm.
Capricorn, in terms of dating, this is what everybody wants to know. What are Capricorn guys like and women like? What are their downfalls? What are their positive qualities within relationships?
They're either the they're either the captor,
Yeah.
or the captor, right?
Uh-huh.
Or the captive, right?
Hmm.
So Capricorn can be like that. They're another sign that it's not so much a deep connection they want, but you could say a little bit controlling. They're a little bit control based and they're very utilitarian,
Okay.
Capricorns. Remember, also with love, Capricorn's very up in the air. But like what we're saying, where their Venus is going to be will affect them a lot. Where their moon is, their ascendant. But Capricorns tend to have this, slave mentality. They can either be the slave master or the slave in relationships. And yeah, typically, so here's my experience. Capricorn women tend
Yeah.
to have like this boss bitch mentality and are very much, you'll find Capricorn women being the breadwinners in the household. They'll be the pantsuit wearing type, and yeah, so that's very Capricornian to be dominant. You could say the word dom goes back to Capricorn too in various ways, but also troll, the word troll, like controlling.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, tolls, trolls, dull colors, ruled by Capricorn. So
It kind of, for me, it keeps on going back to like capitalism, sort of like you have to be of use to a Capricorn within a relationship. You have to
yes.
be an asset almost.
Hmm. Yeah, set goes back to Saturn. So yes, assets. Capricorn rules assets for sure. I'd also say Capricorn is where we get the word price. Okay, caprice,
Yeah.
cap rice. So yes, capitalism, Capricorn for sure.
Wow.
Prices.
So you mentioned builder, but are there any other careers other than carpenter that might lean towards Capricorns in favorability?
Do you want to say it without the on? Sorry.
That was a powerful yawn. All right, I got a theory for you about Capricorn. I personally believe it being a winter sign and this connection to humor is because in the dark times, in the cold times, people had to become humorous as a form of survival. It's like almost like a defense mechanism against the tough times, against the hell of winter.
Right. So you bring up a good distinction, actually. Humor goes back to Jupiter, Hugh,
Yeah.
Hugh, and or perhaps Venus, because humor implies moisture or warmth. Saturn is the comedy and the tragedy, right? So like comets, like
Okay.
high up, dry, impact, fiery, like
Yeah.
comet E, which also goes back to Pluto. Okay,
Yeah.
so Pluto has a little bit to do with comedy, but Capricorn and Saturn really rule satire and black comedy and things like that.
Dark
So,
humor. Yeah.
so here, let me say this: mimicry goes back to imitation and mimicry are ruled by Geminis. So, who do you think is like the best imitationist? who,
Oh,
well,
who
I'll
does
just,
impressions?
I wouldn't frame it like that. I'll just say
Yeah.
Bill Hader is a Gemini, and
Okay.
he puts on many faces. He's also famous for having two different sides of his face, meaning side of his face is really sleepy. People
Yeah.
make fun of him for that. Very Geminian thing to have like two faces. We were saying with Harvey Dent, but yeah.
So this is one of my favorite questions.
Mhm.
What's gonna piss a Capricorn off?
No structure, no routine, losers.
So if they're not around a good crowd, they're gonna be like, I can't stand you guys. Because my dad's a Capricorn. He could be quite a snob in terms of people he dislikes. He'll let them know, or he will act in a way that is very clear to them that he does
Hmm.
not like them.
Hmm.
So yeah, I have two. My dad's a Capricorn, and this other author I know his name's Paul. He's quite the Capricorn. So when you mention these things, I just think of those two guys. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So that's an interesting connection there. Okay, Jim Carrey is a pretty notable Capricorn celebrity. Are there any others that come to your mind?
You've got Sade, who Capricorns rule like stiff. They rule the staff, okay?
Yeah.
They rule the staff, you'll find that. And they rule stiffness. So staff is like the people in charge of like managing things. So
Right.
stiffness to be a stifler, a stifle, and to be a stickler, right? And sticks like stick bugs. And you ask me what Capricorn's shape is. Sometimes they can be like stick bugs. Okay, very like slow, very emphasis on the joints. Like
Right.
Capricorn rules the joints too and the bones. But I would say,
So overall though, real quick with Capricorn with me, it seems to be they have to be the boss of whatever it is they're doing. They
a
literally
little,
have to,
a
you
little
know?
bit, yeah, for sure. And
Or
they sacrifice themselves for their profession too. They're the scapegoat. So they're the goat, the scapegoat, the sacrificial goat.
so how do Capricorns dress? These kind of colors.
Business, like Pitbull. Well, you asked me about other Capricorns. I said
Yeah.
Sade
Yeah.
because she's stiff
Huh.
and she has a very dry, like kind of monotone approach. I'm not saying she's not a good singer. She's a great singer. I love Sade, and every Saturday for me is Sade Day.
Huh.
Okay, because she's a Capricorn herself, ruled by Saturn. So it's great Saturday music. She talks about like always like dark themes surrounding love, like imprisonment or deep sadness, or like despair, or I'm serious. And Sade. She's just very Capricornian, and
It-
her music is very jerky and stiff and robotic and kind of it's more groovy and repetitive, very repetitive. That's a cyclical thing. Some of her songs don't change the whole way through. And so she's a good one. I'd say also I was about to name off how they dress. Pitbull. Okay, they dress like Pitbull. They dress like the richest person in the room or the flyest, top. Gotta have the newest designer. So they're all about designer. Okay, all about that stuff. And they'll either be that completely well dressed, top of the market, head to toe, expensive clothes, very formal. They'll dress formal, very into formal wear. Or they'll be dark, kind of gloomy, doomy, black, wearing a lot of dark or dull colors. Or they'll kind of be they'll wear a slave wear. So yeah.
So when you said Shatter Day, it actually made me think of something. Somebody with a Jamaican dialect might say something like top shata, or a variation of that would be shot caller, right? And it's sort of this connection between they're climbing to get to the top, to get to that managerial position, right? But you could also say in terms of how they dress, they might like to wear nice caps.
Nice caps.
Yeah.
Yeah, caps.
Yeah.
Yes, Capricorn rules hats, caps especially. And the yarmulke is a cap that shows veneration for Saturn. because they worship on Saturn's day. And Saturn has a yarmulke on his head, a little
Yeah.
cap. Capricorn's also the cornerstone. So it's the cap of the mountain,
Yeah.
but it's also the cornerstone of the construction. So Capricorn is a very important sign to Freemasonry, just like Cancer is. Cancer's at the top of the capstone. So you have both the stones that you need in Masonry. You have the capstone and then you have the cornerstone, Capcorn, right? Capricorn. And yeah, this is Baphomet too. You know, I'm not going to say Baphomet's only Capricorn, but Capricorn rules Baphomet because it is a goat. And yeah, associated with the devil, even though that's a whole conversation for another time. There's a lot more to it than that. It's not as bad as everyone thinks inherently. No symbol can be bad outright, you know. It's like saying Stalin drank water, so now water is bad, you know, or he wore a certain brand of shirts, so now that brand of shirts is evil.
Right.
And you know,
So
people can't think like that.
how many planetary types do you see associated with Capricorn?
So there's the Saturnian type, which is the most prominent, most abundant.
Yeah.
And then Mars exalts in Capricorn. So Mars exalts in Capricorn. This is why you say Merry Christmas or Mari Christmas, or yeah, right, Mother Maria, Mary taking a Mars is not equated to Mary, but this is where you get that Merry Christmas, especially around Christmas time, because Mars is exalted, believe it or not. Mars is a very hot planet. Capricorn is a very cooling, cold and dry place. Capricorn also is the earth sign most associated with fire. So it has an association with volcanoes. Now, the word Vulcan goes back to Scorpio, but the word Vulcan goes back to Vulcan, which is in some ways associated with Pluto and Scorpio because things explode. So something explode, plode goes back to Pluto, like a plumber, also a Scorpio thing. This pressure exploding, that is ruled by Scorpio. But the fact that volcanoes are always mountains, that they're usually up high and, you know, very dark and are associated with doom and gloom, also you'll find them being ruled by Capricorn in the eyes of many people. So, because the caps explode and, you know, blow off, and then you have a crater where it was.
So one other question I have for you is I'm starting to get into the houses. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm starting to get somewhat familiar with the houses. Is there a particular house that Capricorn likes the most and one that it dislikes?
Yeah, so the 10th house is ruled by Capricorn. This is the MC in your chart, which is the part associated with career. So career at the top of your chart, where Capricorn rules, the 10th house, that is where many astrologers, all astrologers, will look to for information about the career or your highest calling in your life, your highest potential, things like that. So Capricorn rules that up at the highest part of the chart. This is where Capricorn has a association with ambition. And yeah.
Wow. It's interesting because I think of all these CA words. It's like cash.
Yes.
Cash is very Capricorn.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Capiche? You hear me? You hear me?
Yeah.
You taking me seriously? You know, capiche?
And almost I think of can and can't with sort of a determinism of, you know, a goat ascending and having some drive. Are Capricorns a very driven sign typically, it seems like?
Well, driven and career both have to do with cars. Okay, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you have your car, you have your career, and
Mhm.
in order to have a career, you need to be driven. Okay, driven, and you might have a rear view camera, rear view mirror, things like that. But if you're driving and you're driven and you're on your way to your career, this is, how do we know this is ruled by Capricorn? Because you have your ears of corn, right?
Huh.
Car, ear, things like that.
Okay.
But
That's pretty cool, man. Let's look up some famous Capricorn athletes real quick. We're at 45 minutes. We got about
so here, yeah, you got the boss, who they even call him the boss, is
Yeah.
Drew Brees.
Wow.
Drew Brees is this. He's not the best passer. He's not the best runner. He's not the best. He doesn't have the most charisma. He's not Tom Brady. He's not a charmer, but he is the boss. He is the manager. He was famous for pretty much being the coach of the team when he was there. Like, hang on, I got the reins, making many offensive decisions. At least to my memory, I could be off on that, but he was respected. And another thing with Capricorn, they tend to look old.
Huh.
Okay. And this doesn't mean aged, but they tend to look old. So Drew Brees looked like an old man, like a 40-year-old man, as long as I can remember. Right. And I don't even know if he was 40 when he retired, but he was an older guy, played into older age, and very much many people have said he was the manager of the team. He was making sure every moving piece was in order. And he wasn't like this deep ball guy or this quick release or.
Wait, he kind of was though. He did. He was.
Was he?
Yeah, he had a real quick release, really good deep ball.
Okay, well, I'm off base. Yeah, just cut it out. So.
But okay, all right, we'll start over because I have another great example. Two really great examples. All right. So speaking of Capricorns tend to look old, this guy looked like he was 28 when he was about 18. I'm talking about LeBron James.
Mm-hmm.
So what is particularly Capricorn about LeBron?
Yeah, well, he's very self-absorbed. Okay, so he has some other stuff going on in his chart, but he is not only does he have GOAT status, and he was always obsessed with status from day one. He demands that people think of him as the GOAT. You know what I mean? He's very not humble. He's not smooth. He's not. Capricorn also has this abrasiveness to them because it's apra. Apra has it. Also an apron, like a blacksmith has an apron, things like that. And it's also appreciate. Back to price. The word price comes from appreciate, which obviously comes from Capricorn. Apra, appreciate. So that means for something to increase in value, to climb in value. Where was I going with that?
LeBron and how he's goating it up.
Yeah, so LeBron has kind of. Here, I'll tell you what, it has to do with flopping. Capricorns are floppers because they sacrifice themselves, for the play, even if it's not demanded. They can have this, I don't want to say victim mentality, but scapegoat. Like it's down to me. I'm gonna lay it all on the line for the team. LeBron's very much like that. He'll take it very serious. He's known for taking it very serious. He's also known for his light side, his comedy, but he's very corny too.
Yeah,
very corny, very into corporations, getting into bed with big business. And as far as climbing, I think the way that he hops around teams is very social, not social ladder, but everyone's just a stepping stone to this man. Capricorns can be like that, like we were saying, the utilitarianism. But then again, at the same time, as much as he advances his career and kind of abandons teams, he also loves having, I don't know what the word would be, not this victim, but underdog mentality where he's like, just me, man. The whole team's worthless and it's just me. And that's kind of more what he's been falling into recently, at least from what I can see. I'm not an avid basketball watcher. I almost said baseball. But LeBron James, and he's aged really quickly, and people call him Uncle LeBron and like things like that. Snoop Dogg, I know, is the uncle, but I should have touched on that with Scorpio. I think he's a Scorpio. But,
so the next Capricorn I'm going to mention is probably more masculine than LeBron, probably a better power forward, in my opinion. That is Michelle Obama. And what is especially Capricorn about her?
She's a climber. She's obsessed with control. She wants to control what you eat,
Yeah.
what you say. Okay. She put her fingers in every kid's lunch in America and turned fast food. Okay, what she labeled as fast food across the board, she turned it into fake food. Right. So that's very much a Capricornian thing, is bait and switches, bait and swaps, and she's not. I don't want to make this like political, but she's a climber too. Her and Obama, he's the face. She might even be a little bit of the brains. I don't know, but she's a good manager. She can keep her cool. It seems like that's a very Capricornian thing, being cold, cool. And coal, they rule coal for locomotives because loco comes from Loki, which is the Norse word for Saturn, this trickster, devil, god, dark deceiver, ruler of time and cycles. And Loki is where you get location, locomotion, locomotive, local, locked in. Someone's locked in a box, locked in a cage. Nicolas Cage is a Capricorn. You can't talk about Capricorn without him. He's the most serious, comedic person there's ever been. Okay. When he's his funniest, when he's being dead serious, that's him at his funniest.
Yeah.
When he's being his funniest, that's when people like take his movies really seriously.
Have you seen Face Off?
Yes.
Oh my God, that's my
Classic.
favorite movie of his. It's so funny.
He's like, you took my face.
Yeah.
You took my face. They talk slow. He's very a Capricornian talker. And John Travolta is a Aquarius who's right now. Oh my God, dude, this is gonna be perfect. Okay, I just realized this, and now I have to do a whole thing on
Face Off
movies.
Okay.
With me, with this connection. Face Off. Okay, the two signs of January. Okay, are Capricorn and Aquarius. January goes back to Janus, who is the god with two faces, or one face on the front, one on the back, or left, right. So Janus is where you get January. Jaundice, janitor, janissary, which is like the Byzantine way of saying like a sheriff or someone in charge. And you've also got Janus, two faces, face off. What two signs do they use?
Oh wow.
As lead?
Yeah.
Capricorn and Aquarius as the two signs. So yeah. That's
so I'm gonna
face off January birthdays.
Wow. I'm gonna throw two rock stars at you. They're both Capricorns.
Yeah.
Elvis Presley, David Bowie.
So yeah, Elvis Presley's the GOAT for sure. Elvis Presley's the GOAT of what he did. If I'm not mistaken, Dolly Parton's also a Capricorn. So yeah, Dolly Parton was also a Capricorn. So they have this very earthy, dry, dusky Elvis was very funny. He was very known for being funny. His charm was very much humor, right? So he would say, sorry, this guy's, well, Elvis Presley. Capricorn also rules like dark dyes, because if you dye, you have dark dye, right? Elvis dyed his hair. You know that?
I did not know that.
He was blonde. He was dirty blonde. He had fair hair. He dyed his hair very dark, right? So people think, oh, Elvis, jet black hair. So a lot of people think he was black Irish, meaning he had like these dark features left over from a Spanish sailors or Moorish sailors or something like that.
Yeah.
But no, he was dyeing his hair. So you'll find they gray earlier. Not that I don't know if Elvis did, but they'll gray earlier. They'll get salt and pepper, and they'll use dyes, things like that. But sorry, what did you ask?
I was asking about Elvis. What's Capricornian about him?
Elvis, his sense of comedy. Okay, Jailhouse Rock is one of his big like first hits. Jailhouse Rock is about a bunch of prisoners getting a concert in the prison. There's no girls there. It's just dudes. And then there's a concert and they all pick another dude to dance with. So they all have a partner dancing. And then one of them say, "Hey, let's get out of here, baby."
Huh.
And they go back to their jail cell and right, and then one of them tries to escape. Very Capricornian and very humorous, especially for the late 50s or early 60s, whenever it was.
Yeah, that's wild. I didn't know about that.
Mid 50s. And then you have Lonesome, just all his, even his lively songs are, he very much speaks on being lonesome, loneliness. Lone is also goes back to low key a little bit. And if you go take the low road, the low key, things that are low, Capricorn rules heights, yes, but it also rules the whole distance between two depths in a sense. But Elvis they can dress up very, not eccentrically,
Yeah.
but like over the top, like
Well-
Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Him and Elvis would kind of have similar stage
Well,
get-ups.
you know who dresses similar is Elvis and Pitbull. They dress alike. You know what
Yes.
I mean? Pitbull in those Miami, white suits with the,
Mhm.
a velvet, or no, I'm sorry, not velvet, like a maroon collar or something like that. Very similar to Elvis.
Yes. And Elvis, so his sense of humor, his kind of despair in a lot of his songs, and betrayal and getting let down. And
In the Ghetto is my favorite song of his.
okay,
You know that one?
I like,
By Elvis Presley.
I don't,
Oh my
I
God, it's a good one.
I like Marie's The Name, or his latest Flame. That's my favorite
Okay.
Elvis song. That's about his best friend, or his girl cheating on him with his best friend, or leaving him for his best friend.
Wow.
And Elvis. So Capricorn also rules the elbows. So you could say there's a little bit of a connection there. Elv, V and B switches in many languages. So Elvis. Press could also be constriction, pressure, the price, Presley. So his name's Capricornian too, and he's very capricious, and he has the goatiest face there is. He's very goat face. You'll find them have a similar kind of between the eyes region as Sagittarius, but they tend to have a little bit more of a roundness around the front of the face, kind of like that movie with the anteater, like main character. Was it Arthur?
Yeah, I think so. It's a cartoon. Arthur the cartoon. I recall that.
Yeah. So they look like Arthur. They can have kind of like a oval. I know I said that they're bony, but they can also have this kind of anteater look to them.
What about David Bowie? What's Capricornian about
Very
him?
Capricornian. They also put on kind of personas, okay? All of his personas were either very serious or very comedian, like over the top comedy level. So like Ziggy Stardust, what the hell is this? And then the White Duke, obviously that's the White Duke. That's like this, neo not see, like tall, cloaked, strange, mysterious, imposing figure that is Capricornian in nature. So and then the little space oddity, I don't know if that was Ziggy Stardust or what, but whoever he was, Dave or Captain Tom, whatever. Yeah, it's all very Capricornian. A lot of his music too, especially if you see like his later albums, the one he made right before he died. So Capricornian, so like death and dark and gloom and just strange. And he's very satirical. Some believe he faked his own death, So
Would that be the ultimate Capricorn act?
Yes, the cruel joke. They rule cruel, black, dark humor, satire. That is the ultimate joke. And I think the guy, Doug Kinney,
Okay.
the Mad TV guy. Oh, he was a Sagittarius, but he said he killed himself, and I think he pretty much said like he was Mad TV. Or no, it wasn't. I don't know. Was it Mad TV? It was National Lampoon. Sorry, not Mad TV. Doug Kinney ran National Lampoon, and he's a Sagittarius, not a Capricorn, but he killed himself, or I think people believe he killed himself. And he's essentially, a lot of people interpret it as like the ultimate joke,
Wow.
like, haha. And
Well, he made me laugh. That's a pretty good joke.
not to trivialize whatever happened to him, but
Right. I just did. Sorry.
so Dolly Parton, you'll find that they're often singing about dark things that are just like depressing, get you down, get you low. And Jolene by Dolly Parton, like her most
No, I don't know that one.
famous song.
I would probably like hear it. I would recognize it. You know what I mean?
It's about her man like being obsessed with another woman,
Oh no.
and she's like praising this other woman and begging with her, please don't take my man.
Oh
So
wow.
it's very Capricornian. It's like control, like I want him, like please don't have him, like please don't take him, even though he wants you, please let me have him. And yeah,
Cool,
Capricorns.
man.
Let me see.
I have Capricorn in my chart.
Capricorn celebrities.
I got one for you. I got an idea. I know where Capricorn is in my chart. It's in my little notebook. I'm gonna say where it is in my chart, then I'm gonna ask you what it means. Does that sound cool?
No.
Okay.
You want to do a piece of your chart?
Yeah, because I have Capricorn a few times in my chart. If you don't want to do it, it's cool. I'll be like, hey, I have Capricorn in X. What does that mean? Blah blah blah. Whatever. I mean, we're at an hour and 5 minutes. I'm just thinking, how do we close strong?
Here, let me name a couple Capricorns before we hop off.
Okay.
Timothy Chalamet, total Capricorn, very bony face, right? Definition in the face. And you'll find out with Capricorns, they typically won't have a lot of like fat in the face.
Okay.
They kind of have this more sucked in like skeleton
like
look to them. Nick Cage has that a little too. It's not the dimples that are important. It's more this kind of, they look like they've been starved for like a year a little bit sometimes. And Timothy Chalamet, Florence Pugh, whatever her name is, I think she's garbage. Nicolas Cage, fucking no. Can you hear the dog?
Ruff, ruff, ruff. Dude, I hate the little yelpers. Little yelpers suck. Hey, do you think dogs are more demonic than cats?
Yes.
Me too. Because I fucking both my sisters have dogs, dude, and it sucks.
So Nicolas Cage, to be stuck in a cage, very Capricornian. Okay, to be a captive, like we said. Nicolas Cage, and Cage is not his like birth name.
Oh, it's not? Damn.
No, it's Coppola. He's a nephew of Francis Ford Coppola.
And who's that?
The director of Apocalypse Now and The Godfather.
Wow.
So he's like a kind of a nepo baby, a little bit.
That's really solid information because it's clearly demonstrates nepotism. I'm not saying Nick Cage doesn't have talent. I'm not saying I don't love a few of his movies, but that's pretty interesting info. It also reveals the fact that he's Italian, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Cage is not an Italian name. Wow.
So Mel Gibson, another Capricorn, very serious, sacrifice. He likes to die in his movies. Then you've got Danny McBride, very funny guy, Capricorn. The way he's funny though is he's very deadpan, very serious, and he'll be like laughing, or sorry, not laughing, yelling. But he's like, what he's saying is hilarious, but
yeah,
he might be having a tantrum or a meltdown or being very demeaning to other people, and that tends to be his humor, which I love. Danny McBride's hilarious. But Kate McKinnon, another comedian, famous comedian woman.
I don't know who she is.
She's on SNL.
Okay.
And Michael Pena, who's like the Scientologist guy. Jason Bateman, very comedy or tragedy. He's either doing what's it called? The series with Jason Bateman and Michael Cera, and it's like they're like a real estate family, real estate business. it's almost Arrested Development. So
Okay.
Jason Bateman, he's either in like Arrested Development, where
Yeah.
he's being a like a fool and being very funny and lighthearted, or that show is very jester like Broadway like jestery. And then he's in Ozarks, where he's almost getting executed by the mob, the mafia, or the cartel every other episode, and it's like someone's duct taped and being dragged out of a car like every episode, and captivity and trafficking, things like that. So he's very much a Capricornian actor. He leans more on the comedy side, of course, but Ozarks, he's very serious. And then Kevin Costner, another serious guy, right? You've got Bradley Cooper, who got started kind of with comedy in small comedy movies, and then kind of got taken more seriously after that. Also, he hangs himself in his most famous movie that he's been in, Star is Born. Val Kilmer, another Capricorn. Numi Rapace, I don't know how to say it. Numi Rapace is a Swedish actor who is the girl in the dragon tattoo.
Huh.
The girl with the dragon tattoo. Total Capricornian. She's perfect for it. And then the other one, or the American one, or the Danish, whatever, both the girls are Aries and Capricorn, if I'm not mistaken. So both like have either this dark or angst to them. And girl with the dragon tattoo, very Capricornian. Jeremy Renner, okay, he just got plowed over by some agricultural equipment. That's very Capricornian.
Did that really just happen? Did he die like that, or?
He didn't die.
Yeah.
He almost died. Wish him the best. But
so if you have a tragic death, it's Capricorn all day.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
A little bit.
Or like an ironic death.
It's
yeah.
Kind of, yeah. Let's see who else we got here. Ralph. Oh, here's a good one. This one has to be mentioned. Ralph Fiennes.
Huh.
Ralph Fiennes. Irish guy. He's Voldemort.
Okay? Oh, nice.
He's also very famous villains in like a ton of different movies. He's the bad guy, very bad guy energy. That's because, if I'm not mistaken, his moon is Scorpio, or his ascendant is Scorpio. So he's got the two very dark sides. He's perfect villain birthday. And so, yeah, Ralph Fiennes. Don't know how to say his last name, but yeah, I think that's all I got.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. We're at an hour and 11 minutes. So I figure 11 minutes or so is B-roll. I think we got plenty to do with an hour. I'm just thinking, how do we close? Maybe we'll just preview Pisces and Aquarius.
Aquarius, yeah.
Aquarius and Pisces, rather.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just to confirm, it is Aquarius then Pisces?
Mm-hmm.
Cool, just making double sure. Because sometimes I still have to fucking like Google the wheel, you know? All right, so I'll think of something to say. Fucking hair is crazy. Fuck it. So Capricorn, I now know a lot more than I did an hour ago. The Astro-CHADS Intro to Astrology course is perhaps the definitive intro to astrology course on the internet. And it's all for you guys. It's all for me. I'm learning a ton, an absolute ton. Up next is Aquarius and Pisces. Dr. Narco Longo. Are you excited for the next two signs?
Yeah, Aquarius is an important one to touch on because it's the age that we're stepping into currently. And everyone should kind of have an idea of what that will entail. And Aquarians are very much like that. They embody this age that we find ourselves in. Technology, innovation. So we'll get into all of it. But
that's a big deal, knowing what age we're in and what to expect next. So I'm very much looking forward to that.